Hey, what's up guys? I'm DJ Alex Brown and welcome to today's gig log. In today's gig log, I'll be taking you along with me for the wedding of Michael and Jasmine here at Linden Place in Bristol, Rhode Island. The wedding tonight is around 150 guests, which is a pretty typical size wedding. It is a little bit large for this venue and we've had to customize some of the different areas of the venue tonight. Because this is a historic venue, it's not just like one big room. We'll talk about those customizations a little bit later in the video, but the services that I'm providing tonight are for the ceremony, cocktail hour, and reception. I'll be providing dance floor lighting for the reception as well. So we're gonna start by taking a look at the ceremony setup for today. Just as a quick fun fact, my cousin actually got married at this venue in 2018. I do have a couple of experiences at this venue, so it is a venue that I'm familiar with. And of course, since my cousin did get married here, I did his wedding here as well. So I'm gonna take you through the ceremony and the ceremony setup that I have today. The ceremony, as well as the cocktail hour, will both be outside. There's sort of an upper area of the lawn outside and a lower area that's closer to the museum. The upper area will be where the ceremony takes place, and the lower lawn area is where the cocktail hour will be held. I will be providing music and microphones for the ceremony, but because this ceremony is outside today, I don't have to worry too much about feedback. If you watched my last gig log, you know that I talked about indoor ceremonies and how I tune the microphone to try and avoid feedback. That's not as much of a concern today. Audio with outdoor ceremonies is always much easier, though in this particular ceremony, because the bridal party had to walk such a long distance from the museum up to where the ceremony was actually taking place, it was good that I had my Yorkville PS12P speakers out here because they have a very long range that they push the sound. And Christina, who is sort of coordinating the wedding today, she's with Morin Catering. She was able to hear the music without me having to turn it up too loud to the point that it would be uncomfortable to the guests. We did have a very nice ceremony today. Iris, who is Jasmine, the bride's aunt, officiated the wedding today. This is the first wedding that she's officiated, but I thought she did really a great job. And we did have a single lavalier microphone on her, and I just rode the volume level to turn it up a little bit when the bride or groom were talking, which is obviously a pretty small percentage of the time compared to what the officiant is saying. So I spoke with the photographers when they arrived shortly before the ceremony because they had been taking pictures with the bride and groom, of course, but obviously introduced myself as I always do, and I went over the timeline to make sure that everything was the same between both of our timelines, which is something I like to do with all the vendors to make sure we all have the same times. I also let her know that I would go and find her prior to actually doing some of the special dances, like the couple's first dance and the introductions, because she said, "Oh, you're my new favorite DJ. We actually had it happen to us at the wedding we did last night, where the DJ did not tell us that he was gonna do the special dances and we missed them." And for some people watching this video, you might think that, oh, well, the photographer should know about that and they should be around. But in fact, with the DJ kind of running the timeline for these dances, it generally falls on the DJ to let the photographer know. Also, usually special dances most commonly happen after dinner, and a lot of times the vendors will be eating dinner last. What I've heard from photographers before, and part of the reason that I do this, I've heard horror stories that photographers miss dances because they're sitting down having their dinner and the DJ goes off and does the cake cutting, does the father-daughter dance. So that is an important consideration. That is something that just kind of comes from my background and my experience as being a wedding DJ and just being a DJ for so long that to me, it's just common sense to communicate with other vendors on those things. So we're gonna head to take a look at the cocktail hour right now. For the cocktail hour, because it's so close to where the ceremony location is, we're actually using the same setup, and all we're doing is actually turning the volume up just a little bit more. And like I talked about for the ceremony, Because the speaker that I'm using out here throws so far, we don't need to worry too much about having to turn it up really loud, which is again a good feature. The bride did want my standard cocktail hour playlist tonight, which is just kind of some smooth jazz covers of popular love songs, but she also wanted to add a couple of songs in that the groom likes, so I added those to sort of make a little bit of a custom list as well. I did quickly mention that Russell Morin Catering is doing the event tonight. They are also a vendor that I've done a lot of work with. They are the preferred caterer or kind of the manager of a few venues in Rhode Island. They're one of my personal favorite catering companies. Their sort of event managers are always very good to work with. So right now we are in between the dinner area and the dancing area. So there are actually 4 long tables in the dinner room, and they'll also be doing their first dance right in front of the barn doors that are at the other end of this room for dinner. But I just wanted to point out quickly the speaker that I have behind me. This is a separate setup, so we actually have 3 different setups on site here today. We have a ceremony/cocktail hour setup that was outside. We have a speaker here with a microphone and my iPad to run the music for the introductions, dinner, the first dance, and the 2 toasts. Quick technical note for the DJs especially, if you use Shure wireless microphones, there's a really easy tip to figure out what frequency range you should be using in a specific area or a specific venue to make sure that you don't get any unnecessary interference. So I have actually looked up, there are 2 different frequency zones, what I consider Northern Rhode Island and Southern Rhode Island. I would consider Bristol Southern Rhode Island, and that's kind of how it works as far as the frequency zones go. The proper channel system to use would be the L band. So I actually have the mics all set to this specific area to make sure that we don't end up with any unnecessary interference like I was talking about. I know that's really technical, but for the DJs watching this video, it's really important to do that because otherwise you can end up with the mics cutting out during a toast, which you obviously don't want, or during a ceremony or something. So for the timeline today, we will have the introductions and then the first dance and the 2 toasts, and then after dinner we'll do the cake cutting and the parent dances, and then we'll obviously open up the dance floor for dancing. Right now we're going to take a look at my DJ and lighting setup for the dancing, which like I mentioned is in a separate space.
And then proceeded not to use the heat the whole winter because he thought he was saving gas.
No, but I am Jasmine's matron of honor and her best friend.
So we just finished with the wedding party introductions. Like I mentioned earlier, the couple came in and then did their first dance. It was a little interesting because generally right before I introduce the bride and groom, I ask everybody in the room to stand. That's a pretty traditional thing for weddings, whether it's at a ceremony or during the reception when the bride and groom enter. When the bride and groom came in to do their first dance, there was a woman standing kind of in front of where I was announcing from, and she said, "Oh, where are they doing their first dance?" And I said, "Oh, it's up right in front of the doors where they came in up there." She said, "Well, I can't see it." So I kind of on the fly had to ask everybody to sit down so that everybody would actually be able to see the first dance. So just kind of like a little common sense thing. That is all wrapped up. We did the 2 toasts, and now they're just having some dinner. And then after dinner, we'll do the cake cutting, parent dances, and we'll move into dancing in this tent, which is to my left here. We just finished up the wedding. Just wanted to quickly recap some events of the night, as I wasn't able to come to you very much until now, obviously. In the middle of dinner, the bride's father came over to me and introduced himself. And if you watched my last gig log, you know that the bride's father was formerly a DJ. And tonight's bride's father was also formerly a DJ. So he came over and thanked us for doing the wedding, also gave us some praise in how we've been running things and how we announce things. And he actually just came over and gave me a firm handshake to say that I did a good job. So again, that's always a great thing to have. So to talk about the dancing a little bit, so originally we had planned to do cake cutting and then the parent dances, but there was a little problem with the groom's mom being a little bit sick. So we ended up having to push that off almost until the photographers had to leave, so we were kind of down to the last minute there. We did open the dance floor before doing those, and then we had to kind of clear the dance floor to be able to do those dances. So obviously that's not ideal, but we just kind of had to do those things on the fly. As for the dancing music, tonight's crowd was pretty varied in ages and also the different types of music that they liked, and the bride had given me a couple of songs that she wanted to hear ahead of time. A little bit of typical wedding music, some custom songs that you probably wouldn't know unless the bride told me, those types of things. We had some Spanish music, some Portuguese music, and some hip hop, rap, and pop music. So it was a really unique set of music for tonight, but the bride and groom had a great time, so I'm very happy about that, of course. And pretty much everybody was on the dance floor all night. So that's gonna wrap this video up, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in having me for your wedding, see the link to my website in the description below. If you're a DJ, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, leave me a thumbs up on the video, and let me know what you thought in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching. That's gonna wrap this one up. Peace.